I remember other kids in high school were excited about growing up, getting a job, getting their own apartment, and paying bills like an adult. And I thought that was a terrible idea. I really didn't want to get a 9 to 5 job and work 40 years until retirement, and didn't like the idea of paying bills. But with my interest in wilderness survival skills, it was natural to me to think in terms of shelter, fire, water, and food. And if I could build my own house with my own two hands and eliminate the need for a mortgage, then I would be free to do whatever I want with my life.
My name is Tom Elpel, the author of Living Homes, Stone Masonry Log, and Strawbale Construction, and welcome to my home in Pony, Montana. As a young adult, I had one marketable skill, and that was that I could start a fire by rubbing two sticks together. And with that, I was able to get a job doing wilderness therapy work with troubled teens. Saved up a small nest egg, got married, bought land, moved into a tent, and started building this house. And so that was like 30 years ago. Still here, and I'd like to show you around today. So come on in, I'll give you a tour. All right, this is the greenhouse, and this is really my favorite part of the house. Is that Montana has some long winters, and so I love having this green space. It's mostly ornamental, but I do grow. There's always something edible in here, so even in the depths of winter, I can grab some fresh parsley, for example. And yeah, I just love having the green space and the flowers. And you can see I have my cellar down at the other end there. And this entire downstairs part of the house is done with stone masonry, and this is what we call slip form stone masonry. Is they had no real building experience prior to this house, but with slip forms you set up wooden forms and do the stonework inside the forms, and then slip those up the wall as you go, so that you can make nice flat straight walls even with no prior experience. Yeah, let's go on the main part of the house and I'll show you around. So these are called terra tiles. The tiles are made out of sand, cement, and dirt, and just troweled out in place and cut out with a cookie cutter. And over here we have the kitchen. The kitchen has concrete fly ash countertops that are built in place. And probably one of the more unusual features of a house these days is the antique wood cook stove. This is something, I actually fixed this up in high school and more or less built the house around the stove. It's not something that I would necessarily recommend for most people, but the thing is that my grandmother cooked on a wood cook stove, and I grew up around that. I really love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. And this also happens to be a primary water heater for the house. There isn't a gas water heater, there isn't an electric water heater in here. The hot water is generated entirely between a solar water heater out in the yard, and then the pipes that run through the firebox here and cycle to a tank behind the stove generates hot water that then comes out scalding hot out of the tap. And this is my library, my office, and my man cave. A place to keep all my hobbies, my primitive skills gear and whatnot. And then we have the bathroom over here. And you can follow me through to the family room. So this is the fireplace, and it's actually a masonry heater. We have a fire in the firebox here, and then instead of going straight up, the heat goes up and it splits and goes through a series of 6 horizontal baffles, before going up the chimney, and that helps to extract the heat. And so it has up on top here a damper plate that when the fire is out we can close that. And then there's an external air supply that comes in from outside, so we can close that off with a plastic cap. And that traps all the heat in here so that the rock will radiate heat out for the next 3 days. And then over here there's 3 clean-out doors that allow us to access the baffle system and to clean out each of those horizontal runs. Like the rest of the house, the family room has the terra tiles that were troweled in place. So in this case we added dye to the mix, so sand, cement, dirt, and dye. And we actually used a deer leg to make the tracks in the floor as we went. But I also ended up with the cat ran through, and the dog ran through, and the kid ran through. And so we got a little everything for tracks in here. Now, over here you'll notice a double door, and I've done this on each of the entries to the house, is that, you know, when you build an energy efficient house, and then you just put a tiny little door, you know, 2-inch thick door on it, is kind of ridiculous. So I've done double doors, where in this case we have 2 panes of glass in the outer door and a single pane on the inner. It gives us 3 panes of glass, 2 doors to help protect against Montana winters. Out on the patio here, you can see we have the apricot tree, and it loves the microclimate where the heat bounces off the stone walls here for it. You can see I have a lot of firewood. This is a year's supply of firewood here. Most of it goes in the cook stove, and just a little bit goes into the fireplace. Over here we have the air supply for the fireplace. So to take the cap off when we've got the fire going, close it to, you know, when the fire is out, to trap that heat in the house without air moving through there. And that actually makes a huge difference in the efficiency of a fireplace, because normally when you're burning up house air, and yet that pulls cold air in from the outside. So just having the outside air supply increases the efficiency of the fireplace by like 15%. Back in the main part of the house, and of course every house needs to have a rope swing. Whoa. And you know, the rope swing I put in for my son, and it's just attached to the beam up there in the ceiling, and makes, yeah, a fun place to relax, I guess. You'll notice here that all the light switches and outlets are like in the stone or in the logs, and in this case these logs were all fire killed, and that caused them to split and get these big cracks in it, like this one that they caulked over. So I ran all the wires through and embedded the boxes, and then yeah, so we have these like Flintstone look to our electrical wiring here. You know, this whole house was a low budget project, about $23,000 for this house back in the 1990s. And the stairs I'm particularly proud of, because it's all built out of scrap lumber, and every stair is different, just pieces that were glued and clamped and screwed together and then painted over to get the same color. The log work in the house is all done with what is called the butt and pass method. So you'll notice there's no notching. The logs aren't notched and fitted together. And that's advantageous to do it this way for a couple of reasons. For one thing, this is way easier than trying to notch everything together. For another, when you cut into the logs to make those notches and make them overlap, you create spots where the wood can rot out. With the butt and pass method, the one log goes into the other, and then they're all pinned together with rebar. So basically, rebar like you would embed in concrete. In this case, we're using them as big nails that we have rebar going through to connect this log to that log. And you can see there's a rebar pin going here, connecting this way. And there's also rebar pins that go down from one log to the other. And we have those throughout the walls that keep all the logs in place, so there isn't any settling. And that way you can nail your doors and window frames right to the woodwork without worrying about the house settling down and warping those. So here we have my bedroom, and even though we're upstairs, the door here leads out to ground level because the entire downstairs is built into the hill. And being nestled into the hill like that helps hold heat in the building. So I can leave for a month or more at a time in the middle of winter. I don't have any backup heat, but I don't have to worry about my pipes or my plants freezing just because of the way the house is built into the hill. And over here we have the sunroom. Come on in. The sunroom, wonderful warm space in the wintertime when the sun streams in here and warms it up to 80 degrees in the middle of winter. And I often like to sleep out in here because I get the great view out the windows, which just happens to be completely blocked right now. The grapevines are coming up from downstairs. And it looks like going to get a bumper crop of grapes this year, the best ever. So I'm really excited about that. Over on this end of the house here, we have my other office, originally one of the kids' bedrooms. Raised 4 kids in this house, and they're all out of the nest now. So I just took it over and made another office. Alright, so that's the quick tour of the house here, and thanks for coming along. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos on house building, and be sure to pick up my book, Living Homes, as well as my DVDs on slip-form stone masonry and masonry fireplace construction.